Kia ora, good evening. Rural crime in Southland cost around $1 million in the year to June 2012, but a new initiative is helping to bring that down. In October, police launched the Southland Rural Crime Prevention Strategy, targeting thefts and burglaries which had been problem areas, and since then, rural crime in the area has fallen around 5%. I spoke to Southland Area Commander Inspector Lane Todd about the strategy and how much of a problem rural crime is.
Well, we certainly have in the last few years had noticed an increase in our burglaries and thefts in the rural sector, and so we've done a survey at the Waimumi Field Days, and we've actually used that information to developing a strategy with our partner agencies.
And in terms of a goal, what are you hoping to see in terms of a reduction?
Well, we'd certainly like to reduce it further. Obviously, we're tracking at 5%, which is really good, but it's still early days. We kicked this off in about October last year. But the other thing is some of the burglaries we're getting in the rural sector are quite significant in value, and we also had a climb in our fuel theft as well when fuel was at quite high prices. So that's the sort of thing that we want to be working on, and also just getting our rural communities working a lot closer together as well as part of that strategy. So
in terms of the rural crimes that we're seeing, what kind of things are you talking about?
Mainly it's around burglaries, and that's just from rural sheds, implement sheds. The property that seems to be going the most is our quad bikes, and also, believe it or not, car trailers as well is another big commodity. But then also you look at stuff like chainsaws, that sort of equipment. And unfortunately what tends to happen in a lot of our rural properties is that some of those smaller items actually may not really get missed for quite a few months, and that makes it a little bit difficult for us as well to try and track that property down.
Is Southland in a unique position in terms of this?
Not really. With the strategy we've introduced, we're certainly looking at pushing that around out in the Waitaki and also in Central Otago. But I guess what we have noticed in Southland in the last few years that we've been looking at it is there certainly has been a big increase around quad bikes going missing and car trailers. So that seems to be the property that seems to be going the most around here, and that seems to be mainly around Southland.
So in terms of that 5% drop that you've had, why do you think there has been that drop? Is it that people are better aware and locking things up, or?
Yeah, that's a combination of that, but also we're probably policing a bit smarter now as well. So we're utilising the information that we've got around deploying at the right time, but also we're utilising our relationship with Fonterra. They've got just over 90 trucks on the road 24/7 at the moment. And so we've got a good information process with the drivers around how we can be sharing information, and obviously they're good eyes and ears for us as well, so that's working really well for us.
The number of tourists visiting New Zealand has reached the highest level ever recorded for the month of March. More than 270,000 visitors arrived in the country in March, up 13% on the same month in 2012, according to figures from Statistics New Zealand. Population Statistics Project Manager Susan Hollows says an earlier Easter helped boost visitor numbers. The number of arrivals easily surpassed the previous high by almost 20,000. Meanwhile, New Zealand residents departed on close to 156,000 overseas trips in March, up 2% on the same time a year ago. Water quality and quantity are big issues in the Gore district, with council considering how to approach the issue, particularly around supply not being able to match demand. Margot Southland spoke to Mayor Tracy Hicks.
It's been an increasing trend over the last few years, particularly water quantity issues. We've had extended dry periods where we've had to have some restrictions put into the urban community, and we see or don't see that trend changing. So let's have a look at where we're getting the water from, what are the potential opportunities to increase the water volume, and also look at our current structure and infrastructure. Is it meeting the needs of the community? And obviously something's not working at the moment because we've got restrictions right through into almost May, which is probably pretty much unheard of. So I guess that's really what's driven it, is something that's been an increasing trend over the last few years.
So what sort of options are you looking at?
Well, we've spent a lot of time over the last 6 months or 8 months looking at potential new sources for water. Our water is largely connected hydraulically to the Mataura River, and with the Mataura River having a water conservation order on it, when it gets to a certain trigger point, then restrictions have to take place, irrespective of whether we can get water from the wells or not. So that's pretty much where we're at the moment. Let's have a look and see if there's other opportunities. It appears there's not a lot of opportunities for easily accessible water in great volumes outside of water that's connected to the river. So that being the case, where does that leave us for the future? And who knows what the population growth might be in the community in the future. So we just need to make some assumptions, look at what the potential is, and water harvesting, I guess, is something that seems to be on the horizon. But before we get to water harvesting and building a dam or anything like that, let's have a look at our current infrastructure, what's coming in, what's going out, where's it actually going to. And I think there's some real opportunities for us to save a lot of water by working through that process. I think there's a lot of leaks in the system. I think that as a community we probably don't use water as wisely as we could, so we just need to take stock of all those options, and there's a stepped process. We'll look at this, and this, and this, and maybe we get to water harvesting, and maybe we don't. We'll just see how it goes.
And on the topic of water, new monitoring equipment is being installed in Southland rivers to give a better gauge of water quality. The new equipment is being installed by Environment Southland in 5 of the region's main rivers to measure sediment and ions in the water. The first is being installed at the Aparima River this week, with the other 4 expected to be completed by the end of June. Principal Environmental Technical Officer Carl Erickson says the equipment will help measure water quality. He says the data collected may be able to be fed into future policy and planning. And stay with us. After the break, concerns some war memorials are being lost has led to a new project in the south. Welcome back. Concerns in the Southland community that some war memorials are being lost has led to a new project to catalogue the region's memorials. It's believed there could be as many as 600 memorials in Southland, ranging from monuments to rolls of honour. I spoke to Community Development Team Leader Bobby Brown about why Venture Southland is developing an inventory of the region's war memorials.
We were approached by some interested members of the public and community groups who had a concern that with some of the halls closing and changes in land, that memorials or their location was perhaps being forgotten. So we thought it was a great opportunity for Venture to look at where they are regionally and create a database which we could put online, and that would sort of safeguard them for the future.
How many memorials do you think there actually are out there in Southland?
Well, that's a good question, because even what a memorial is, there's lots of different definitions. But we think that we have a list of about 160 at the moment that we've used from collating other people's lists, as well as the ones on nzhistory.net.nz. And what we're hoping is that the public can actually help us identify where some of these other ones might be. So there's a variety of different types of war memorial, from the rather large spectacular ones behind me, right through to bird baths, rows of trees, rolls of honour boards that are often in halls, Masonic lodges, schools, gates. Lots of different types. We're really interested in knowing where these are, and so we would love the public to get in touch.
So why do you think it's important to take note of where all of these are?
Yeah, as I said before, to preserve where they are so we know, because I think the community and people really want to look after them, and they are important reminders of our past and how we got to this stage and that point in history. So I think the key purpose is to preserve them and protect them for future generations to understand and enjoy.
Now, in terms of restoration and refurbishment work, is that something that's going to come into this as well?
I think that communities are actually doing a really good job at the moment of looking after, the ones that need it, often the larger type monuments. So what we're hoping at Venture is just to provide that regional context so that, we can see where they fit in regionally. And I think communities will probably continue to look after them, especially if they know where they all are.
How many of these do you think have been forgotten over the years?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. I'd like to think none. And that's probably a really important outcome of this, is that we can find them, we can bring people's attention to where they are, and then communities can work together to look after them.
The number of farm sales in New Zealand took a hit in the 3 months to March, falling close to 5.5%, although values rose. According to the Real Estate Institute of New Zealand, there were 376 farm sales in the 3 months to the end of March, down on the same time the previous year. However, the median price per hectare rose, up more than 11%. 6 regions saw increased sale volumes, while 7 saw falls, including Southland, which had 16 fewer farm sales. REINZ Rural Market spokesman Brian Peacock says despite widespread drought conditions, the level of activity indicates underlying confidence in the medium to longer term. Around 30 Labour Party members gathered in Invercargill at the weekend to discuss the party's future. The annual Southern Labour Party conference was held at Aurora College over 2 days, with the focus on campaign readiness ahead of next year's election. The southern area covers the electorates from Waitaki South. Among topics discussed, local organisational changes as a result of internal restructuring last year, proposed modifications to candidate selection, and the development of policy platform and campaign planning. The economy, manufacturing, environment and changes to the Resource Management Act were other topics of discussion. More than 230 cyclists set off on a long ride at both ends of the country on Saturday morning. The Tour of New Zealand began simultaneously in Cape Reinga and Bluff and will finish this Saturday around 700 kilometres later at the Beehive. Riders range in age and ability from school teams to racing cyclists, and more than 30 cyclists have come from around the world to take part. Last year's event raised $75,000 for charities. Tour beneficiaries this year are the Heart Foundation, St John, Halberg Trust and the Hikarangi Bikes in Schools program. And that's it from the news team tonight. Stay with us though. Coming up in sport, we've got the Highlanders' loss from the weekend. From the news team, good night.